Last night, America was finally introduced to Donald Trump's pick for the highest court in the land. And he comes from the highest state in the land.
The president announcing conservative Neil Gorsuch, a federal appeals court judge from Denver, who he praised for having a brilliant mind and tremendous discipline.
He is the man of our country and a man who our country really needs and needs badly.
Is Trump introducing a judge or reading Supreme Court erotic fiction?
America needed Judge Gorsuch badly. It reached its trembling hand under Justice Gorsuch's robe to feel his supple yet tender thigh.
Here's how you know we're living in Trump's America now. This appointment is for the top court in the land that rules over an entire branch of government. It's a lifetime appointment that could shape American society for the next 40 years. And you can tell that Trump understood the gravity of this situation because he treated it like an episode of a reality show.
This drama, orchestrated by Trump, resembling an Apprentice-style announcement tonight.
Sources say the choice has come down to two men, both of whom have reportedly come to Washington tonight, almost like some kind of reality TV show.
Judge Neil Gorsuch. So was that a surprise? Was it?
Who cares if it's a surprise? The point of picking a Supreme Court justice isn't gotcha! It's a judge, not a jack-in-the-box. What are you doing? I mean, who announces a Supreme Court nominee like this? Trump even teased his selection on Twitter. This is what he tweeted. He said, "I have made my decision on who I will nominate for the United States Supreme Court. It will be announced live on Tuesday at 8 p.m., parentheses, White House." I love how he puts White House after 8 p.m. as if we don't know where to find him. That's where he treats it like a TV show. Tune in Tuesday, 8 p.m., only on White House. Only on White House. Who is this man? Like, I wouldn't be shocked if in a few years you're gonna be watching TV and Trump's gonna pop up at the bottom of the screen with, like, you know, my new law coming up. It's gonna be one of those things. It's like him walking out, just like, oh, what the hell? It's happening for real? Get out of here, man. Get out of my show. Get out of my show. The man is so obsessed with entertainment, he even included an extra judge. He included an extra judge just to build suspense, which turned CNN into TMZ.
Just hours before the president's big primetime announcement, CNN caught up with one of his two top contenders, Judge Thomas Hardiman, on his way to Washington, stopping to gas up in Bedford, Pennsylvania.
Can I ask about your trip to D.C.? Are you the potential Supreme Court pick?
Shame, guys. That poor judge. The dude is going for a D.C. job interview and he's getting treated like he just a Kardashian. Totally not cool. These are serious judges who deserve to be treated with respect. So with that said, let's learn more about the man who actually got the rose in tonight's installment of Profiles in Tremendousness.
I have the most dedicated people. I know the best people. We're going to use our best people. I have the smartest people in the world. I know guys that are so good.
So good.
So who is Neil Gorsuch? Well, not only is he a federal judge on the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals, he's also a part-time Cialis spokesperson. So you know he's not soft on crime. And though there are some objections, you know, people saying, oh, another white dude who went to Harvard. On the Supreme Court, some say Gorsuch qualifies as a diversity pick.
All of the members of the court currently are either Catholic or Jewish, but Judge Gorsuch is a Protestant and Episcopalian.
Oh, change. That's so weird. Yo, can we be real for a second? America has so many flavors of Caucasian. It's insane. No, like sometimes it feels like I need a white person sommelier to like pick up the subtle differences. It'd be like, I'm picking up notes of, oh yes, Episcopalian with just a hint of Colorado. Yes, yes. I'm just smelling white guy. That's all I get. Now, look, elections do have consequences. And one of those consequences is that the president, unless he's Obama, gets to appoint a Supreme Court justice of his choice. And that's exactly what Donald Trump has done.
Gorsuch sided with religious groups seeking exemption from the contraceptive requirements in Obamacare.
He is a staunch supporter of the death penalty and gun rights.
Against abortion rights, against affirmative action, against gay rights.
He's very conservative. A lot of people think he might be more conservative than Scalia.
God damn. That guy's conservative. I bet the GOP elephant is jizzing out of its trunk right now. He's like, and I mean, you got to give the Republicans props. I don't know what else to say. Because Obama appointed Merrick Garland with almost a year left in his presidency. Republicans, they stalled, refused a hearing, made up bullshit excuses about why it couldn't, shouldn't, wouldn't be done. It wasn't nothing but petulant bad behavior for an entire year. And in the end, they were rewarded with everything they wanted. Imagine trying to raise a child in this world. What do you say to them? And so I hope you learned your lesson, Billy. F*** you, Dad. That's my boy. I mean, not only did they get to fill Scalia's seat with a like-minded jurist, they found a man who admired Scalia so much, it hurts.
The world suffered a seismic shock with the loss of Justice Scalia. A few weeks ago, I was taking a breather in the middle of a ski run with little on my mind but the next mogul field before me when the phone rang with the news. I immediately lost what breath I had left, and I'm not embarrassed to admit that I couldn't see the rest of the way down the mountain for the tears.
Wow. That is sad. He was crying when he heard the news of Justice Scalia, who had passed. A really touching story. And also, the whitest thing I've ever heard. In the middle of skiing, you got a call. I mean, and then you had to carry on going down. I'm just like, how do you do that? Skiing is so much fun. You're just there like, wait, what? What happened? No. Today was day one of the Senate Judiciary Committee's confirmation hearings for Brett Kavanaugh, President Trump's Supreme Court nominee and guy who definitely reads all the reviews before he buys a garden hose. And I know Brett Kavanaugh is not a Supreme Court justice-y sounding name, right? Supreme Court judges are supposed to have names like Oliver Wendell Holmes and Thurgood Marshall. Like Brett Kavanaugh sounds like a name of a relief pitcher with a disgusting goatee. That's what it sounds like. But Kavanaugh actually has a long resume, right? He's been a federal judge for over a decade, and before that, he was a lawyer in the Bush White House. And before that, he was an egg in his mother's womb. But what makes his possible appointment so crucial isn't who he is, it's what he believes. You see, as a judge, he's much more conservative than the man that he would replace, Justice Anthony Kennedy. And that could have serious lasting consequences, because if Kavanaugh gets confirmed, he'll become one of the 9 people in the country who get to decide all of America's rules. Everything from abortion rights to voting procedures, affirmative action, video game rules. Yeah, that's what they decide as well. The Supreme Court said you can do celebrations after a touchdown now in Madden. That was them. Yeah. Thanks, Ginsburg. We appreciate it. But Kavanaugh could have serious power. So obviously everybody is really invested in this week's hearings. And no one is pulling for Kavanaugh more than the president himself. And tell me if you can figure out why.
He has said in the past he does not believe sitting president should be subject to criminal investigations.
Oh. You know, for all the shit that Trump hides, he's also the most transparent president ever. While he's being investigated, he nominates a guy who thinks presidents shouldn't be investigated. Like, Trump's not even hiding his evil plan. Like this guy was probably horrible at hiding his affairs. He was like, Melania, I'll be home late tonight, and it's not because I'm having sex with Stormy Daniels. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye. Now, people who are not under investigation by a special counsel might want to know more about Brett Kavanaugh. But they can't, because Republicans are currently blocking the release of 100,000 pages of documents from Kavanaugh's time working in the Bush administration. And even more dickishly, Republicans did release 42,000 pages of other documents, but only last night. Yeah, which is just mean. I mean, you can't read that much in one night. That's not even enough time to get through the new Eminem album, right? I mean, I know it's only 11 tracks, but you have to keep rewinding it just to be like, wait, did he rhyme ostentatious with black? How does he do that? So with all this shadiness, people are coming out pretty hard against Kavanaugh. There's been protests, there's been rallies, there's been speeches. People even showed up today dressed in Handmaid's Tale costumes. Yeah, that's a real thing. But apparently Republicans prepared for this. Because believe it or not, they held mock hearings for Kavanaugh where Republicans pretended to be protesters so that he could get used to it. Yeah, which is hilarious because now I'm just picturing Mitch McConnell acting like a resistor. He's just there like a hands off my uterus. Bah, bah, this pussy grabs back. Bah, bah. So because of all of this week's hearings are shaping up to be one of the ugliest ever. In fact, just listen to how the first minute of day one went.
Good morning. I welcome everyone to this confirmation hearing on the nomination of
Mr. Chairman.
Brett Kavanaugh.
Mr. Chairman.
To serve as Associate Justice.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to be recognized for a question before we proceed. The committee received just last night, less than 15 hours ago, 42,000 pages of documents that we have not had an opportunity to review or read or analyze. We cannot possibly move forward, Mr. Chairman, with this hearing.
I extend a very warm welcome
we have not
to
been
Judge
given
Kavanaugh,
an opportunity to have a meaningful hearing on this nominee.
Their two daughters.
Mr. Chairman, I agree with my colleague, Senator Harris.
God damn. Chuck Grassley does not give a f***. They were shouting at him from all directions, and he didn't stop. Like, I wondered, did they prepare him for that as well? Did they just put him in the New York subway? And they were like, no matter what happens, just keep reading. And everyone online was like, I'm sorry to interrupt, but people were like, it's showtime! Some kid was like, you want to buy some candy? Everyone was just standing over him. Someone was jacking off in front of him. Like, nobody was distracting him. And then finally they were like, how do you not get distracted? And he was like, you think this freaks me out? I work with Ted Cruz. Brett Kavanaugh, Supreme Court nominee and renowned dad jeans collector. His confirmation hearings were already controversial and contentious, but this weekend they reached a whole new level.
The Supreme Court nomination of Judge Brett Kavanaugh could be in jeopardy. A woman going public saying he sexually assaulted her when they were in high school. Christine Blasey Ford, a college professor in California, tells the Washington Post Kavanaugh and a friend were stumbling drunk at a party in the 1980s and allegedly forced her into a bedroom, pinned her to a bed, and groped her. She says, he was trying to attack me and remove my clothing. She told the Post when she tried to scream, he put his hand over her mouth. Kavanaugh has categorically denied the accusation, saying in a statement, I did not do this back in high school or at any time.
God damn. Just when you thought the Supreme Court hearing couldn't get any more dramatic, this drops. I mean, 2 weeks ago, it was protesters dressed like Handmaid's Tale, and now we're dealing with allegations that Brett Kavanaugh sexually assaulted a girl when he was 17. And what's also wild about this is this is like the fifth prominent person Donald Trump has supported who's been accused of mistreating women. You know, it's almost like he doesn't realize it. But if he likes someone, it's because they have a shady history with women. You know, it's like shame, recognize shame. So, like, if Trump says, there's something I like about this guy, we should probably investigate them. That's what I'm saying. And now, like, Kavanaugh denies all of these allegations adamantly. He says he didn't sexually assault anyone. He says he doesn't remember that party. In fact, he says he was never even 17. He just went 15, 16, 18, just to be safe. Just to be safe. And now look, nobody at this point knows all the facts in the story. But because these allegations are so serious, Senate Republicans are saying they want to get to the bottom of this, as long as it doesn't take too long.
Christine Blasey Ford, the woman accusing Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh of sexual assault, says the FBI should investigate her claims before she agrees to testify before the Senate. But Republicans are pushing for a Monday hearing.
Chairman Grassley argued nothing the FBI or any other investigator does would have any bearing on what Dr. Ford tells the committee, so there is no reason for any further delay.
Senate Republicans have a message for Dr. Christine Blasey Ford. Testify Monday or they'll move on with a vote.
Wow. So Dr. Ford wants the FBI to investigate this incident before she testifies, and Senate Republicans are insisting on Monday or nothing. Like, how tone deaf is it that in the case of an alleged sexual assault, the woman is saying, I feel like you guys are moving too fast. And these dudes are like, well, we're ready, so we're doing this. And now, to be honest, I understand why Senate Republicans are in a rush. Like, they want to get the Supreme Court seat filled before the midterms, which they're afraid that they may lose. All right? It's the same way I made sure to pose with every celebrity at the Emmys before I lost to John Oliver, because I knew no one wants to pose with a loser, but everyone likes you and you might win. I made sure. Now, what's interesting is some people aren't even waiting for the testimony, though, right? They've already decided that there's something fishy about this woman's story.
This was in the early 1980s. It's now 2018. She was 15 years old. She's now 51. There is ground for some suspicion there.
He was appointed to a federal appeals court or federal court. Where was she then when he was appointed to that court?
I don't
now? Why?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
She had repressed her memory supposedly till 2012, but it was when he was up for the Supreme Court that suddenly the stakes got higher.
Yeah, that's a good point. Why are these allegations about his fitness for the Supreme Court only coming up now that he's going up for the Supreme Court? Get the out of here, man. Like, this is exactly the time you'd expect this stuff to come up. That's the whole point of hearings. Like, it couldn't work any other way. Like, that would be the weirdest episode of Law & Order ever if the lawyer came out like, Your Honor, why would the prosecution submit the murder weapon as evidence now? During the trial? The timing seems suspicious to me. I rest my case. And now, I'll be honest. I'm not shocked that people would question the motives of a woman who's come forward with these allegations. It's pretty much par for the course. What's been interesting, though, is that there are some people arguing that even if she is telling the truth, that shouldn't affect Kavanaugh's Supreme Court appointment because boys will be boys.
These are sensitive issues. But high school behavior. How much in society should any of us be held liable today when we've lived a good life, an upstanding life by all accounts, and then something that maybe is an arguable issue took place in high school? Should that deny us chances later in life, even for a Supreme Court job, a presidency of the United States, or you name it?
Okay, well, first of all, we know it doesn't exclude you from the presidency. I mean, yeah, no, that pussy-grabbing ship has sailed. But really, this is your argument? Like, look, we can all agree that drunk 17-year-olds do a lot of crazy shit. I mean, they eat food off the floor. They pee on cars. Hell, some of them draw penises on their friends' faces. But let's not add attempted rape to the list of stuff drunk boys do. And I'm not saying, like, if you did something awful when you were 17, you should be excluded from society forever. But I also don't think we should just brush it aside because it happened when the dude was young. Like, this is for the Supreme Court, not your local softball team. He would go on to be one of the 10 most powerful people in the country. And yeah, I said 10 because it's the 9 people on the Supreme Court and Beyonce. It's 10. And look, all I'm saying is I think it's worth taking the time to try and find out the truth. Because if it turns out that this allegation is true, would you want a guy making decisions about all women's rights if he couldn't even respect one woman's right to choose? We have to start with the all-out war brewing over her replacement. Because you may remember that when Justice Antonin Scalia died 9 months before the 2016 election, and President Obama tried to replace him with Merrick Garland, Mitch McConnell and the GOP blocked it. And their reasoning was that a Supreme Court vacancy so close to an election should be held for the next president so that the people can decide. Well, you might want to sit down for this one because guess what they're saying now?
President Donald Trump and his Republican allies are forging full speed ahead to nominate a successor, in some cases defying promises they made 4 years ago to do the exact opposite if the situation arose.
Less than 24 hours after Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg died Friday, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell vowing President Trump's nominee to replace her will get a vote in the Senate. President Trump says he will put forward his nominee this week.
When you have the Senate, when you have the votes, you can sort of do what you want as long as you have it.
Well, there you have it, folks. When you have the Senate, you can do whatever you want. Trump is right. It's basically the when you're a star, they let you do it, but of judicial appointments. It's truly amazing how Mitch McConnell's rules keep changing. First it was, oh, we can't nominate a Supreme Court justice during an election year. And then it's like, oh, asterisk, that rule doesn't apply when we have the White House. Meh. Yeah, don't be shocked when Mitch McConnell comes out like, how come the Supreme Court is a lifetime appointment, but our great president is not? You guys feel me? You guys picking up what I'm putting down? Meh. And speaking of lifetime appointments, I can't believe that Donald J. Trump, people, gets to name 3 justices to the Supreme Court. The guy can't even name 3 branches of government, but he gets to name 3 justices who serve for life. This is the same guy who's had to fire everyone he's hired because of how bad he is at hiring people for life. Trump can't even pick his own partner for life, but he gets to do it for America? Wow, this country's rock and roll. Now, I don't think anybody's surprised that Senate Republicans said one thing when Obama was president and another thing when it's Trump. I mean, you can't even call them inconsistent, you know? Doing whatever it takes to get his way is the one consistent principle that Mitch McConnell lives by. You know, it's that and eating baby birds right out of the nest. But still, it has been pretty incredible watching some of these senators abandon their past promises. And no one was abandoning harder than a senior senator from South Carolina and assistant manager at Chick-fil-A, Lindsey Graham.
Republican Senator Lindsey Graham's own words are coming back to haunt him. He's now vowing to support President Trump in any effort to move forward in filling Ginsburg's seat before the election. But here's what he said back in 2016 when President Obama was in office.
I want you to use my words against me. If there's a Republican president in 2016 and a vacancy occurs in the last year of the first term, you can say, Lindsey Graham said, let's let the next president, whoever it might be, make that nomination, and you could use my words against me, and you'd be absolutely right. We're setting a precedent here today, Republicans are, that you're not going to fill a vacancy of the Supreme Court. That's going to be the new rule.
And he repeated this in 2018.
If an opening comes in the last year of President Trump's term, and the primary process is started, we'll wait till the next election.
You're on the record.
Yeah.
All right.
Hold the tape.
Okay, look. I know he looks like a giant hypocrite and an asshole right now, but in Lindsey Graham's defense, he didn't know this would happen. It's the same way you say, oh, you know, if I won the lottery, I would give most of the money to an orphanage. I don't need it that much. Yeah, but then when you actually win the lottery, you're knocking down the orphanage so you can build an extra garage for your cars. Unlike a child, a Bugatti can't sleep outside. Honestly, I can relate to Lindsey here. Sometimes I tell myself that I'm not gonna eat another Oreo. No more Oreos. And then I totally overturn Roe v. Wade. I have like no willpower, guys. I will say though, what really doesn't help Lindsey Graham is that he explicitly said, I want you to use my words against me. So creepy. Sounds like some kind of weird Senate version of BDSM. That's right. You take that sentence and you play it back to me. You play it hard and you make me feel ashamed. Yeah, you make me feel real bad with that tape. You just keep playing it to me. Now, there are a couple of Republican senators who have said that they don't support filling the seat before the election. But pretty much every other senator seems to be fine with blatant hypocrisy. And it's easy to see why. I mean, a solid conservative majority on the Supreme Court could kill Obamacare, could undo abortion rights, and basically strike down any liberal policies for decades to come. Even after Trump leaves, his legacy will be in the country for decades. It's like if someone came into your house just to say hey, but they had stepped in dog shit right before entering. Now it's deep in the carpet and legally doesn't have to leave until it wants to. So, facing Trump's third Supreme Court appointment in less than 4 years, what's left for the Democrats to do? Well, Joe Biden is asking Republican senators to follow their conscience, which I'm pretty sure is exactly what Republicans are doing. I mean, this is like telling Hannibal Lecter to go with his gut. You about to lose your face. For decades now, Ruth Bader Ginsburg was the cornerstone of the court's liberal bloc. But over the weekend, Donald Trump nominated Amy Coney Barrett as her replacement. And it looks like having three names is the only thing she and her predecessor have in common.
37 days out from Election Day, the president selecting Judge Amy Coney Barrett to fill the seat vacated by the late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
At age 48, Amy Coney Barrett would become the youngest member of the Supreme Court. A native of New Orleans, she went to college in Tennessee and graduated from law school at Notre Dame, where she taught law for 15 years and is a devout Catholic.
Barrett, a former clerk for Justice Antonin Scalia, could reshape the court for decades to come, pushing it further to the right.
In 2003, she suggested that a key Supreme Court decision upholding Roe v. Wade and a right to abortion was wrongly decided. If she's confirmed, the court would be more likely to uphold efforts by the states to restrict access to abortion. And the court would probably be more likely to broaden the reach of gun rights. If she's confirmed by the time the Supreme Court hears a make-or-break challenge to Obamacare in mid-November, she might be inclined to rule for the red states challenging the law. She's been critical of the court's 2012 ruling upholding it.
That's right, people. Trump's nominee to replace RBG could help overturn Roe v. Wade, kill Obamacare, and expand gun rights. So that means someday in the future, a fetus can shoot you and you won't have insurance to pay the hospital bills. This is like Mike Pence's wet dream, if he was allowed to have them, of course. And what's really shocking about these issues is how out of touch the Supreme Court could be from the country at large. I mean, 63% of Americans want Roe v. Wade kept in place, 56% support Obamacare, and 64% support stricter gun laws. I guess this is what the Founding Fathers always wanted. You know, a branch of government that would act like an evil step-parent for the rest of the country. Please, ma'am, may I have some health care? No! Now go to your room and play with your AR-15. Pa, 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 pa. And those are just some of the issues she'll rule on in the next couple of years. Because keep in mind, Barrett is only 48 years old. So she'll be sitting on the bench for decades, which is really bad news for liberals. And really bad news for her. I mean, sitting on a bench for decades with no seat cushions, that's going to get uncomfortable. Or is that not how it works? They've got like, Now, usually, confirming a Supreme Court nominee can take up to 3 months. You need time to vet the nominee. You need time to hold the hearings, and you need time to take them to the mall for their glamour shots. But since the election is just 5 weeks away, Republicans are putting the process on fast forward. And based on the schedule that they've put forward, they are going to vote to confirm Amy Coney Barrett just days before the election. And you almost have to appreciate how ballsy this is. I mean, this is the same party that went from, you can't confirm a Supreme Court justice during the same year as an election, and now they're practically confirming someone on election day. It's a complex legislative maneuver known as the shrug emoji. And you know, I wouldn't mind Republicans doing a complete 180 on this if every now and again they flipped on a different belief, you know? Like how poor people don't deserve to live. You know, do a 180 on that one, spice things up. And right now, Democrats don't have a lot of options to stop the nominee. In fact, Joe Biden has resorted to appealing to Republicans' sense of decency and urging them to vote against filling the seat right before the election. But I'm going to be honest, Republicans are not giving off a strong decency vibe right now.
From notorious RGB to notorious ACB, the Republican grassroots fundraising group WinRID is now offering limited edition T-shirts referring to President Trump's new Supreme Court nominee, Amy Coney Barrett, as the notorious ACB. The shirt is a play on the late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who is often referred to as the notorious RBG. The shirt comes 1 week after Ginsburg's passing.
Ah, yes. Nothing says class and decency like mocking a deceased Supreme Court justice by stealing her nickname. Not only is this insulting to RBG's legacy, it's insulting to rap. Because there's no way Amy Coney Barrett even knows who Biggie Smalls is. I bet if you asked her, she'd probably think you were taking measurements for her robe fitting. In fact, Amy Coney Barrett is the exact opposite of RBG. So technically, she should be Tupac. I mean, if you're gonna do it right. Those should be Thug Pro-Life t-shirts, you dumbasses.